Thanks, Bev. Thanks for the intro, and I'm really happy to virtually meet you all here today. Here's what we'll be going through today in our power agenda. We'll start off with defining what is project management, and then looking into why it's an important skill to know and where can it be applied to. So, looking at some real life projects. We'll then get a little bit more technical, and hopefully this is going to be super useful for you. And we'll look into agile project management. So it's a certain type of project management practice. And then we'll go into a project management process, what that looks like, and the skills that are useful to applying it into different type of project management processes. And then, of course, how to get started and some additional software and resources for you guys towards the end. So, Bav, can you help me out with the next slide? Perfect. All right. So, Bav, can you take us over into the next step, please? We'll go a bit more into the official definitions. And I want to look at this from a bit of a change perspective. So, project management is a way of tackling organizational and business challenges and navigating change. So technically, anything to do with change can be a project. A new way of working, a new process, a new system that's being introduced to a business to help streamline a way of working, a new team of organizational structure, perhaps, or a department structure, maybe even an office move, which is actually one of the first projects that I personally managed. All of these are examples of change which need to happen in order for a business to achieve greater success. So the world, in essence, as we know it, is a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous place. So you will see this acronym that I've put in the brackets just there, VUCA. If you remember that, then you'll understand also why agile ways of working, which we'll look into a little bit later on, are super important. Project management is a way of making sense of this volatile and uncertain world and landscape of business and making a plan around how to navigate that to achieve greater success in business and in operations. With project management, we collaborate, we engage in team working, and we take an idea from what we currently are in a place that we're currently in to then a better future state or a better way of working in the future, and then deliver on that idea. So project management is about reducing risk, uncertainty, and complexity, and enhancing the chances of success, personal or in business. So if we get a little bit more into the details, how do we define a project? So I've included two official definitions here. The first one being from Prince2, which is an official qualification that you can undertake to become a qualified certified project manager. And the second one is for PMBOK, which is the Project Management Body of Knowledge. So the first one, a management environment that is created for the purpose of delivering one or more business products according to a specified business case. So a few of you mentioned things like achieving or delivering on a certain goal or requirement gathering. This definitely touches on that. And a project is a temporary endeavor because it is limited to a time frame, undertaken to achieve a particular aim. So again, goals and trying to achieve a particular vision, and to which project management can be applied regardless of the project size, budget, or timeline. If we then skip onto the next slide, I want to show you a bit of a diagram that might explain it in a bit more detail here. So this is a bit more visual and it will help you understand what a project means from a working context. If we start right at the top of the diagram, if we look at the vision, if a business has a vision of how they're likely to operate in the future, or as Bav mentioned in the beginning, Recoded's vision is to enable and empower, that in itself is a vision statement. So this is how they'd like to operate in the future or currently trying to operate. So either maybe even things like becoming more sustainable as a business or making a higher profit or growing their brand internationally. This business may then set several objectives around how to achieve this. So then that moves us down onto breaking down the vision into objectives. Each objective or a number of them may therefore combine to a program of work, which suggests a number of different changes of how the business works right now. So again, we're taking it from step A to step B. These changes are then broken out to individual projects, as you see right at the bottom in the yellow. So everything then you can see contributes upwards to the overall success of the vision. But today we're just looking specifically around how to then take a project, one of those little yellow chunks from start to finish, and the key skills and the practices around that. So hopefully this was useful to see in a visual diagram. So, why is project management a key skill for success? I think this is one of these most important questions where I've mentioned at the beginning, it's not that you have to be a project manager, but certainly the skills of project managing can be applied in all different types of business or career steps. As we mentioned to begin with, anything to do with change can be a project. This applies to both our personal and professional lives. So, the principles of managing the journey from point A, where we are today in our current state, to point B, that point in the future where we're working in a better way or we're achieving part of our vision, are the same, whether we're looking at changes such as renovating a house, planning a wedding, or at changes such as restructuring a department, managing an office move, or even implementing a new system to a business, which is what I do in my current job. So I've put here some real life examples of projects which require project management skills. And actually, if you've never thought about applying project management skills to some of these life practices, I would encourage it. It would make the whole journey a lot smoother. Things like planning and running an event, gardening improvements, fundraising event for a charity, even a job application and interviewing process can be a lot more successful if you project manage it. The key skill here, and I think the real differentiator, is how well you're able to manage the journey of success from point A, where we are right now, to point B, where you're planning to get to. The tools, techniques, and mindsets that you apply to make the journey or outcome a success. This, in essence, is project management. So I'm going to ask you, can you share some of your stories based on the examples that I just mentioned? Some might be from your personal lives or from your working lives. Can you share some examples of the projects you might be taking on right now, or that you might have already managed, or that you maybe want to learn how to apply project management skills to improve the success of that planning or that event? Again, if you can pop them in the chat, we can use some of these as great real life examples. Yep, your sister's surprise birthday party. What a great example. So getting started with the idea of maybe finding a venue, then issuing out invites, opening a YouTube channel and starting to create videos in there, of course. So you maybe need to write down a whole program of the different types of videos you want to post. Web-based projects, yep, absolutely. Field work, absolutely, from start to finish. Yep, moving classes to online, so digitizing the process. Educational purposes, so designing an educational program, yep, making an application to a job, to a training course, anything like this. Yep, this is great. Thank you for sharing your examples. Perfect. Fav, if you can help me on to the next stage. Perfect. So, core principles of Agile project management. I mentioned that we'd look into Agile project management in a little bit more detail. And let's go a layer deeper and explore one of the forthcoming methods of project management, which is Agile, as you can see here. So I'll start from the top. What is Agile? What is Agile project management? You might hear that word a lot if you start talking project sort of language and terms. So Agile is not just about being flexible, although it does have that meaning in the English language, though it does mean being open to adaptation and change. Again, change is a key word or a theme we've spoken about here a number of times. So Agile is essentially a way of approaching a project where we deliver on the final result in small incremental chunks. So if you just look at that diagram that you've got with the blue boxes just on the right hand side, that might help to explain it. So it's a way of interacting with the constantly changing nature of business and the world, where we discuss that we have a vision or an idea and that we'd like to implement a better way of working or a contribution towards that vision or idea to some kind of end goal. So as you just said there, the world is has a constantly changing nature, and because the idea of the project and its conditions we're delivering on have a way to evolve and improve over time as the way that we are working in the world and the business evolves and changes over time. The idea that we have at the beginning, so as you see there in the diagram, may completely change over the length of the journey that we've said, taking it from point A to point B. So by working in an agile way, we leave this flexibility open by only building and delivering on our project in small chunks at a time. So that means it's a huge contrast to the other diagram that you can see there, the traditional project management, which essentially it's a pathway of working on projects which take on a step-by-step approach and only really deliver a solution or outcome right at the end of the project. So again, to take it back to the example that Bav gave right at the beginning, which is planning his sister's birthday party, if we worked in a traditional approach, what you might do is you might put together the guest list, the food, the venue, everything, but you might actually only invite your guests at the very last day when the event is, if you worked in a traditional approach. If you worked in an agile way, what you might do is start inviting your guests early, then you might contact the venue, then you might secure the catering, and then you might get flowers. So it's all an example of how you might take it step by step and then deliver and sign off on these things as you go. So why work agile? What are the benefits of working in this way? You're able to deliver a return on investment sooner, which means that the business that is looking to implement a change or a new way of working through a project that is managed in an agile way is able to receive the benefits of this project much sooner than other projects that are managed in the traditional way. It means that you're never compromising also on the timeline of the project or the budget, because you're always looking to deliver on a strict timeline, because you want to make sure those people are receiving the benefits of this project as soon as possible. The continuous involvement and collaboration of the project and the business that is involved in running the project in an agile way always means that the different people you're working with in the project, the people who are going to be impacted right at the end, and their way of working will be impacted right at the end, are always constantly involved, which means that the solution that you develop at the end of the project is a lot more aligned to the way that they like to work or what they were expecting. And finally, the end solution that you're working on is tested, tried, and approved along the way. If you deliver a small part of it first, you're able to then rethink it, mull it over, and maybe adapt and change it as you get into the next pieces, instead of waiting for everything right at the end. So hopefully that's given you a bit more of an idea around what sort of agile project management looks like. So let's get again into a little bit more detail here. I want to talk about some of the main key aspects of project management with their official terms. You'll see this again in a lot of project management methodology. So it's important to understand these terms just to get onto the same gripping of how we manage projects. So stakeholder management, one of the best parts, it's all about people. During a project, you'll work with many stakeholders or members of the business or project that you're supporting. So the official word or the official term that we use is stakeholders. They will all have different and sometimes quite conflicting, and I know this from personal experience, needs and ways of working. So stakeholder management is a way of finding a way to harmonize all those differences of values, needs, requirements, and working preferences into alignment to contribute to that common goal and that vision, and take all these stakeholders willingly along the way on that journey from point A to B. Planning, of course, the pinnacle of any project is planning well. So planning phases of project management involves gathering requirements from everybody involved to understand what they need from the outcome of the project. That could be a number of different conversations. It could be through things that they submit themselves with needs and with requirements. And then from there, what you're doing is you're setting up the project to run in a way everybody is comfortable with working by certain milestones, timelines, deadlines, by budget constraints, all of the ways that allow you to say, this is how we'll work together, and this is exactly when we can expect to see results. Governance. So now that you've planned out your project, how do you manage it to make sure everything goes according to that plan? It's not always so easy, but governance is a skill which helps you manage the progression of your project smoothly from start to finish and all the way through. Setting up regular check-ins on the status of the project from all the teams involved, all those stakeholders that you might be speaking to on a regular basis, checking against the timeline and the schedule that you've built in your plan. And examples of this, of course, it's all part of project governance structure. So you will build governance, which means a governance structure is just a way of working together and how we track the progress of the project plan. And finally, risk management. We've talked a lot about planning and managing the plan, but not everything always goes according to plan. And I imagine many of you are chuckling right now, and I know it ought to be true. Risk management is your ability to identify any issues which may affect the project timeline, budget, spending, so how much money you're contributing to the project to be delivered, and of course the quality of what you deliver right at the end. So once you've identified a risk, you can then apply different techniques to manage it, to transfer it, to mitigate it, to avoid it, to guarantee that the project is successful towards the end. Okay, so let's get into understanding what are the different stages of project management of an actual project. Plan, build, test, and launch are the main ones, and you will come across these fairly frequently if you do go into project management. So again, with planning, I cannot stress this enough, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. The beginning of any project is the design or the planning phase, of course. This is where you speak to all the stakeholders, all those members that you're working and collaborating with who are involved in the solution towards the vision or the objectives. And you're looking to understand from them what they'd like to change or achieve to help you plan or design the solution. You then again translate that into a project plan, and then you apply the whole governance and setting timelines and milestones and deadlines. Then comes the build part. This is when you actually get your hands a little bit dirty. After you've designed the solution, you must build it, or the teams that you've brought on board to build it must get on with it. It must be a process, a product, or something else. So it might be any of these things. But here is where you may deliver this solution in pieces, as we expected and as we just saw earlier in Agile project management. This phase also includes defining what success means. So how do you know what you've built is suitable? How do you know that it's going to meet the needs that you captured from all your different stakeholders in the very first planning phase? We call this in project management an acceptance criteria. And then you've got the testing. So during this phase, you've run a test on the solution, on what you've delivered to be successful, and you've built against the acceptance criteria that you've defined. So what do you define as successful? What do you define as good enough? And then you test what you have put together in line with this to see whether it's been a success or no. If it passes the test, it can then be applied and used or launched, or you can go ahead with the event that you've planned for a birthday or a wedding or anything else. And finally, of course, it's the launch phase. After your solution has passed the testing, everything looks good, you can then roll it out to the rest of the organization or to anybody else who's being involved in sort of making the most out of your objectives or your vision, or celebrating that success of the project. So the key skills of project management. I want to ask you, ahead of going into these, do you know of any other key skills apart from prioritization, deadline and timeline orientation, organization, and being quite personable? Do you have any examples of other skills that you feel like would fit in to everything that we just discussed of the different steps of a project and the different life cycles? Leadership, yeah, perfect, exactly. You have to be patient for sure. I know that for sure. Leadership skills are super important. You are the go-to person for all those different people working across different teams to lead them across and through the whole project from start to finish. Critical thinking, absolutely. With risk management, you really need to think, what are the areas of the project where things could go wrong? How is this person who is on my project team who's resisting the change a little bit? How can I engage them a little bit better? Negotiation skills, absolutely. Being open to new ideas and being really, really sort of collaborative with the people that you work with. Absolutely. These are great. Problem solving, of course. Perfect. These are great. Okay, so let's go into the ones I've listed out here as some of the top ones I can identify. In order to work to timelines and to a budget, which we've discussed are the important principles of Agile project management and actually most project management in general, we must learn to prioritize what parts of our project to deliver on if we work in that Agile way. Therefore, prioritization is a key skill to navigating the world of project management. What do you focus on first? That's then going to trickle on and allow us to deliver on the other pieces that come later, that have the dependency on the follow-up tasks. Being deadline and timeline oriented. So important if you're chasing a timeline. If you've committed to a timeline, you must deliver to it. you're being held accountable to deliver to the success of this project. So to ensure you're managing the expectations of your stakeholders and all those involved, including the business who's contributed money to the delivery of this project, means being timeline oriented. And being deadline oriented is therefore a skill which is heavily required in successful projects. Being organized, I cannot stress this enough. A project often has a number of different things happening simultaneously. It's like so many different things going on at once, all contributing to the same end result, to those objectives and that vision. So being organized is really, really important just to make sure you're managing the progress of all these different aspects of a running project and making sure that any of the dependencies of follow-up tasks they have on each other to be clear, reliable, and executable, so you're not delaying any stage in the process at all. And finally, a lot of you mentioned it, and we looked at it when we talked about stakeholder management. Being personable is super important. You're working with various different teams, you're collaborating every single day. A project is a collaborative effort, is what we started our whole talk around today. You will work with many people and consult with many stakeholders. A sure way to succeed in this area is to learn to be personable, or apply different types of interacting with people and being open-minded and respect different points of view. Be sympathetic with people's needs and ways of working, and be able to accommodate all these requirements and translate them into a common goal or a common team working environment that will really, really lead to really successful projects if everybody is on board and respects each other's ways of working and their points of view. So, Bav, we now get into some of the more interesting stuff. Hopefully, I've won you over on why project management is such a key skill for any role you take on. This is how to get started with project management skills, or developing them if you wanted to get into this area of work, or if you just wanted to improve how you manage some of the projects in your existing line of work. So, how to get started? Of course, it starts with planning and preparing, just like any project. Research is really, really important. It's what you'd call maybe the requirements gathering of your project, or even getting involved in project management. So look into some more details of what makes up project management, what makes a good project, examples of real life projects within your desired industry, maybe, or ones that you maybe want to get into in the future. Some of those key skills that we discussed earlier and how to master them, maybe go into a bit more research around sort of how they've been applied in real life projects, why they're so important. And then, of course, read as many articles as you can. Follow your search to different areas of interest. You don't know where that hole is going to take you. Hopefully, it's somewhere super, super interesting and on your journey of becoming a great project manager. Then I'd recommend joining some online courses, and there's so many resources out there. So sign up and complete one. There's many free ones, and there's certainly how I got started in the field of project management. I joined a few courses. I completely retrained as a project manager, and then put myself up for some additional next steps, which I'll take you on to in a second. So go ahead and go online and explore maybe entry into Agile project management courses available, or maybe just the principles of them to get you started. Sign up and work your way through one of these with tasks, maybe with specific case studies. If you really, really want to take this as a career forward, maybe even try and get an accreditation. Sometimes that happens with an exam, or after you complete a course, you may receive a certificate. These are super, super useful if in the future you're looking to apply to roles that are a lot more project oriented. And then next, of course, is to find yourself a project either in your own life or in your current job, and then try and run it with all of these different principles that we've talked about today and applying some of these skills. Apply your learnings to the successful completion of that project that you find. As we mentioned earlier when Bav introduced me, one of the first projects that I took on in my job was completely unrelated to my day-to-day work. It was managing our office move when normally I worked in marketing. So I applied all of the knowledge that I learned on my courses, and I tried to build a project plan of how to coordinate that office move. I talked to the different people that are involved in the project, just for my own benefit, just to try it out in a step-by-step plan or an execution list of everything that you feel like needs to be done to get us from point A, where we are today, to point B, and what success of that looks like. And the final part, the really, really important part, is to try this again and again. But every time that you try, make sure that you've analyzed the success or maybe why it wasn't so successful last time. So, what didn't work so well? What could you improve? Because we all have areas of improvement. And the best way to do this is to collaborate, be personable, ask the people that you worked with last time how their experience was of the whole thing and how you can improve for next time, or maybe what could be more successful if you did it a different way the next time around. We've included here a toolkit of resources, pieces of software, but also some additional resources where you can read up more on project management. You can get some more materials, templates, examples, case studies. The number one place that I would point you to is maybe if you are looking to get into project management, is to get comfortable or even understand how some of the tools that you see here on the screen, like Asana, Monday.com, Jira, how they work, because they might be quite often used tools if you are looking to make project management a career choice. But again, taking it many, many steps back, jump into the project management resources that you can see here on the right, have a bit more of a read, and I think some of these tools might make a lot more sense. And finally, now hopefully you're inspired and enabled in how to get started with your project management journey. But I'm here to help with any other questions that you might have.